It's the Fulhamish podcast, your independent voice of Fulham FC. My name's Sammy James. Welcome to the show. Today, we will look back at Fulham's 3-0 defeat to Crystal Palace in the FA Cup quarter-final. The clocks might have gone forward this weekend, but time stood still at Craven Cottage as Eberechi Eze banged one in from 30 yards. Ismaila Sarr caught the Fulham defence napping. We then huffed and puffed, but it was Sarr and Nketiah who blew the house down and sent the balloon brigade in the Putney end into absolute raptures. It's a bit of a dark pod today. We've been here before. This one maybe feels worse than ever before, though. I'm joined on the pod today by Elizabeth Barnard. Hello.
Hi, Sammy. Thank you for having me.
Fred Cooper. Hello.
Hello, Sammy.
And Dan Cook. Hello.
Hi, Sammy. Unlike Liz, I have no thanks for you. I actually resent you having me today.
I resent being here, in all honesty. This is when the gig's tough, I'd say. Trying to pick the bones out of that. I imagine none of you are listening. I don't. No one's listening to this. We might as well just say what
Palace fans are listening.
Oh yeah. Hello, Palace fans. This is the Palace-ish podcast. Glad all over. I don't know. What's the point? What's the point of being alive? Dan, let's do some 3-word reviews. Let's lighten the mood.
Yes, that's not going to happen with the reviews. I went to Instagram because in the heat of the moment yesterday, I ended up deleting Twitter. I couldn't take it anymore.
I don't know.
Instagram it is. You got JM Rue 25 with big day bottle jobs, which is fairly self-explanatory. Julie with white flags surrender, which good. If we could have been more like Dido, we might not have gone down with that shit, but we really sank yesterday. BCB Cook with waved white flag, very similar theme. I really enjoyed these two actually, though. I think these are quite funny. Nibor Nala with impotence prevents semi, which I think is quite a good 3-word review. And paintings summing the whole thing up with gonna full cry.
Yeah. No, Instagram doing the business yesterday. I think totally fair enough that you deleted your ex or Twitter or whatever it's called. I think today might be the day for me, in all honesty. Look, let's just, before we kind of dissect the match, I think let's just open the floor to feelings, thoughts. Is it as dark as I feel, or is there actually a little element of it's not that deep? I'd probably appreciate someone having it's not that deep opinion right now, even if I feel like it's the deepest swimming pool I've ever been in. Fred, I'll start with you. I feel like you're the most likely to find some positive in the shade.
I just genuinely feel like it. I feel so much like, do you remember the Reading semi-final?
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't upset. I was upset, but I wasn't angry. I just felt so deflated after the game because the whole week I was just looking forward to it more than nervous. I felt, and I genuinely did think we could do it. And I always had this feelings like, yeah, we've got a bad record at Palace at home, but this is going to change. And Fulham we're the type of club that we change kind of bad records or streaks in massive games. So I thought we would do that yesterday, and the atmosphere was great beforehand. The flags looked good. They looked good at Liverpool. So I kind of knew and expected why the club would carry on with that. So, and we were loud. We were great. And I think we lost the game in the space of the 5 minutes Eze and Sarr's goal went in, to be honest. And at half time, everyone in the concourse is just kind of standing there like, how on earth has that happened? And how on earth are we going to get back into this game? And I think we just left it too late in the second half. Simple as that. And then obviously when Nketiah scores, it's done. I think it was done at half time, to be brutally honest, but I had this sort of hope at half time. I was like, we can maybe get back into this. And I remember seeing my mate in the concourse, he was like, Fulham can do, like, we were 4-1 down to Juventus, weren't we? We can turn this, we can have miraculous comebacks, and it just wasn't it wasn't meant to be yesterday.
I remember there was a chant that the Hammersmith, in fairness, tried to start. It got drowned out maybe by a substitution or something that happened on the pitch of stand up if you still believe when we were 2-0 down. But I didn't believe at that moment when it was maybe if it'd been sung at the very start of the second half, Liz, I would have. But there was a moment where I was just like, this is gone. This is out of our hands. And I was clinging on to the fact that Fulham might get back into it. We had a couple of chances. But anyway, Liz, I said I'd open the floor for more feelings and thoughts. So yeah, the floor is yours.
Yeah, if I'm honest, like I was pretty bereft yesterday. And I also did the quick take with Yasmin, which was an even tougher gig than doing this, honestly, because it was like half an hour after the game. And the thing with the quick take, and I'm sure there are a lot of Palace fans listening today. Hi guys. But the thing with the quick take, when we lose, it's like 100% opposition fans who watch and comment. So there's this like switch that goes off in your brain where you're like, I just have to be quite gracious. I can't be really hurt because that's what they're looking for. And that kind of reframed it for me. But I don't know. I don't think this is as terminal for the season or the Marco Silva project, even though people aren't saying like this is the end of Marco Silva. But it was a very important game for Marco Silva, but it's not the most important game, I didn't think, of his tenure. So I don't think it's all doom and gloom. I can bring some positivity maybe when we look forward to Arsenal.
I just feel like it's the opportunity though. That is the thing with me. I honestly can't see us having another chance to win a major trophy, let alone get to Wembley. Like Wembley would have been great and whatever, but I thought we could have a really, really good chance of winning something. Yeah. And anyway, it's getting even more darker. Sorry, I'll shut up.
I think that is the thing for me, Dan, is like, and I tweeted afterwards and I was emotional and all of that, but I said that this is up there of those kind of days that I really think this is one of my least favourite days. And I was there in Hamburg. I was there when we got relegated to the Premier League. I wasn't there when we went down to Division 3. I wasn't there at Torquay, which is always the famous one that Fulham fans that were there in the late 90s talk about. But even if I was, I think for me, it's the denial of an opportunity. Relegations creep up on you and are deserved normally at the end of the day. Hamburg for me was obviously a huge missed opportunity, but was also some sort of pride. We should never have been in that position in the first place. I got caught up in the hype. I think that was it. I was in the car on the way up on Saturday, listening to Guardian Football Weekly, listening to Philippe Auclair talk about how there's a club this year that's never won the cup before that's going to win the cup. And I was there, the sun was shining, and I was there thinking, this is massive. And I feel like I've learned a lesson here. I don't know about you. I'm never getting caught up in it again. I'm never dreaming. I'm never hoping. I'm never expecting, because this is what happens.
Yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly. I completely agreed with your tweet as well. It was actually one of the things that drove me to deleting Twitter was some of the responses to your tweet, and namely, I think a Palace fan who saw it as some sort of weird thing and said you were being arrogant. And then I was just, at that point, my head just was spinning. I started typing out a tweet. And I was like, no, hold back, just delete. And then so I got out of there. But I completely agree. It was one of those moments where there have been other huge moments in Fulham's history and bigger occasions, right? Obviously the Europa League final is a bigger occasion than the FA Cup quarterfinal, plain and simple. But there was so much pride in the whole journey to the Europa League final. And at the final whistle, it's devastating and it hurts and you're sad, but you're also proud. And I think it was, to a lesser extent, but similar last season, the Carabao Cup semi-final. I didn't expect to beat Liverpool. And so by the fact that Fulham ran them close right through two legs at the final whistle, and actually throughout the whole game, I was more proud than I was anything else. Yesterday, it hurt so much more because there's zero pride. It's probably the least proud I've ever been to be a Fulham fan, because, the relegations, they happen over periods of time. You're rubbish. It's coming. It feels inevitable. Yesterday felt like such a moment. And yeah, it really stung. I felt just very numb. I was walking away from the ground and bless my dad, he was trying to engage in conversation with me. I had nothing. I had no words. I was mustering up 2 or 3 words back to him in every question he asked. Just felt very, very flat. And yeah, I agree with you, Sammy. It's just that build up the atmosphere, that one moment where it feels like the fans, there's been a bit of like, it's been a bit disjointed this season. We've had games where the atmosphere's been not great. We've obviously got all the ticket pricing issues, which lead to a bit of like a fracture in the fan base. Yesterday, I've not seen a concourse at Craven Cottage that busy that long before kickoff. It really felt like everyone came together, all were like, we're in this, let's rise to the occasion. So to come out of it with what ends up at the end of it looking like an absolute hammering, which, you know, it was and it wasn't, it that really stings. To if we'd have lost 1-0 to a scrappy, if we'd have lost 1-0 to that Eze goal and that had been it, I think this would have been so much less worse. But it's just the fact that it was then 4 minutes later, 2-0, and then Eddie Nketiah, Mr. 2 goals a season, bagging the second. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I must admit there was a moment where I was just like, oh God, this is a play. He came on the pitch, I was like, oh, okay, at least there's going to be no more goals from their strikers. And that lasted about 5 minutes. I mean, like, for me, and I'm not trying to get too emotional here, but like, look, I'm in my 30s, you're all in your 20s. There will be chances again. Like, there will be moments where it all comes round again. But it's just sometimes thinking of like, you know, I had one of the tweets back to my tweet here was, I'm 70, Sammy, been Fulham all my life, and my only wish was to see us win the FA Cup. I really thought this was our year. And it's tweets like that when you're just like, I know.
Why?
Tell me, why did we have to bring that up?
I know, but like, it's when like,
oh my God.
It's really easy to be like, okay, whatever, there'll be another year or whatever. But it's just things like that. Oh, flipping hell. Like, it's just so, it's so annoying. Look, Fred, let's go into the game before we all make ourselves cry. And I read out people's sad tweets to me. The first 30 minutes, you can't knock Fulham. Like, it was that we were dining out on the atmosphere. We were first to every second ball. We created chances. Calvin Bassey looked like the new Franz Beckenbauer, just running through Crystal Palace. And I really was thinking at that moment, we've learned lessons here. I guess it's the age-old problem in the end that's been there all season of, we often look very good. We often look like the better team. We're often dominating in the middle of the park and winning the ball and creating transitions and getting in good crossing opportunities. And there wasn't really one shot on target in earnest.
Yeah, literally summed it up. We were lively, but I think that was just, as you said, the players were riding the wave of the atmosphere and crowd. So yeah, I thought we started well, and I really, as more the game we got into the game, I truly thought maybe I think Palace were planning on taking it to 0-0 at half time, to be brutally honest. I didn't really see anything from them. And that's why Eze's in the England team, and he's an absolutely sensational footballer. And that finish is sublime. I literally gobsmacked. I think everyone in the Hammersmith end was just like, what on earth? And then he comes up to us and starts shushing us. So not only just shocked, but also infuriated as well. And yeah, it's just our problem all the time. We play well, but are we that like cut it? Have we got a cutting edge about us that requires us winning stuff and getting into European places? I really don't know. Some days we do, some days we don't. And yesterday we didn't at all.
Yeah, I mean, Liz, I don't think there's an awful lot that can be done about Eze's goal. I mean, Lukic gives him a yard. But like, come on, mate! Any player, you like have a go from there. Little bit of Steve Malbronk about that goal, by the way. Portsmouth back in the day. But it's the second goal, I think, which not only I think is the much more criminal goal in terms of the defending, but kills the tie. That's the moment where you'll think, because a 1-0 down, I was just like, okay, fine, 1-0 down, not ideal. This is going to be tough, but for it to happen in such quick succession, and it all just felt quite easy. We were all over the place at that point as well. Like, where was Joachim Andersen? Sander Berger was the man that was trying to stop the cross. It kind of felt like a five-a-side goal, just near post, flicked header goal. I was there just like, I feel like we're better. We're so much better than that. And if Marco's looking back at it, that will be the one where he goes like, what were you doing, lads?
Yeah, I mean, I was after the Eze goal, I was doing some like psychological warfare on myself to convince myself that it didn't change anything, because we still needed a goal to win the tie, and I thought if we drew and we brought it to penalties, we would definitely win. So
Yeah.
I thought like I was doing all of this, and then the fact it came so soon after, and the fact it was so sloppy from us was just devastating. And like at half time, I was saying to Yasmin, it's over. And then I got back to my seat and said, well, I have to still believe, because otherwise, why am I here? But that killed it. And after that, Palace knew that the only strategy was to defend. They knew that there was no point in like pushing forward to like really attack. Whereas at 1 down, obviously, if you sit back on that can be quite dangerous. But they knew if they defended well, and they did, they would win. And it was so difficult for us to break down that low block after that.
I mean, Dan, what is it about this? Because I feel like I'm thinking that Crystal Palace are like Manchester City or something. Like, I know they're good, and I know that take out the first 12 games, they'd be 4th or something crazy like that. They have been good under Ollie Glasner, but we only have to look at this team man for man. Other than Eze, this team man for man, and look, Wharton's a brilliant player, and he's going to go on to be a star. But Fulham are hardly non-league either. Like, Fulham have got some very, very good players. These are even teams in my eyes. Other than Eberechi Eze, a step above clearly, but I just don't understand how they just have our number.
Yeah, it's interesting because I do think it gets lost a little bit. I've seen some people talking about it. That first 25 minutes was as good as I think anyone could have hoped or expected from Fulham. I genuinely, that first 25 minutes I thought was superb. And yes, end product not there, but everything else that you would ask for our team to go and do yesterday, passion, physicality, desire, drive, all of that was there. And as you said, we beat them to every second ball. We were in them. They dropped deeper and deeper. It was really good. And going into the game, I was worried about how we'd set up. And I had in my head a preference for us to try and mirror Palace a little bit, try and do our 5 at the back, because we saw what happened when we played the 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1 against them in the league a month prior. It didn't work. And so I thought, you know what, let's learn from that. Let's play 5 at the back. The flip side of that is you back your own system to just be better than the opposition. You back yourself to go out and be better. And that first 25 minutes, we were. But as soon as that goal happens from Eze, after that, I think Palace's game plan was immaculate. And we saw all of the same issues that we saw in the month prior. And this is where it's horrible, and I love him and I hate critiquing him, but Marco does take flack and should take flack because he didn't learn. He didn't learn. And this way that Palace set up, I think you've got 3 very good centre-backs. So even I thought Chris Richards yesterday was superb, and I would have initially probably pinpointed him as one of the weaknesses in their back line. I thought Chris Richards was magnificent. But when you've got 3 centre-backs who are all physically capable, all good in the air, you've got 2 wing-backs who are positive and aggressive and are able to close down a man and are not worried about a 1v1 challenge, to just rinse and repeat, push it out to Robinson, flip it back inside to Pereira, try and get Robinson on the overlap, put in a cross, head it away, let's go again. It's just like there was no creativity, there was no learnings from the fact that we tried to do the same thing against them in the league and it didn't work. And that's really frustrating because Palace were able to take everything they did prior to us earlier in the season and just do it again. And they did it really effectively. You know, they defended very well. They used their 2 midfielders very smartly. I think Wharton grew into the game. I thought he started off very poorly, and then as it wore on, he got very, very good. And then that front 3 just used the ball smartly when they had the opportunity to counter. And I think it's just the way that Ollie Glasner has that team working is something that we've always seen Marco Silva struggle to manage against. And so for me, when you say what's the difference between Palace and and Fulham. I think at the moment it's probably the tactician behind them, because I don't think I'd ever say that Marco Silva is the best tactical manager in the league. I think he is a superb man manager, player manager. He is able to get the best out of individuals. And I think that has so much value, because there are plenty of managers who are good tactically, but lose an entire dressing room. And then it's no good. And unfortunately, Ollie Glasner's not one of those. He's a good man manager and a good tactician. And I think that won over on the day.
Let's talk about Adam Wharton as you brought him up. Fred, he should have been sent off. There is just no two ways about it. I understand the rules. VAR can't give a second yellow, so that's why VAR didn't intervene. But upon the replay, I think the referee's looking at it. And even Ollie Glasner, in the aftermath, berates Adam Wharton and says, card, like, careful, mate. Like, the clearest indicator that he should have gone. And I think, personally, Marco using that as, like, his post-match kind of thing, I'm a bit like, look, mate, we got beaten fair and square. But you cannot say that losing their central midfielder at 0-0 doesn't wildly change that game. That's a win for Fulham. I'm sorry. I think that Adam Wharton getting sent off when it's 0-0, given that Fulham were on top at that point, is as good as go to Wembley for me.
Yeah, but that really did quite annoy me, as you said, with Silva at the end of the game mentioning it. Mention it later. Don't. I wish he just held his hands, because Dan's right. He got outclassed again by Glasner. But yeah, it was quite extraordinary. I don't know what on earth the ref was. It was clear. It was so clear. And also, I think it's a foul anyway, him like nudging him, to even have the audacity to like kick out at him again. It's like, I think Wharton completely, I think Muniz must have said something or done something before, but I think he just forgets that he's on a yellow. As you say, Glasner then is like, mate, you're on a yellow, you're literally on a yellow. It would change it, but also at the same time, it's like, how many decisions of the refs this season? Like, it happens all the time. So I'm not going to say that we lost the game because of it, because we were just not good enough. And yeah, it's a red, but it's literally, it's futile talking about it now, I feel, especially as our manager speaking about it initially, like the first thing he says in the post-match conference.
It's a shame, though, because I think it was symptomatic of the fact that Fulham were winning that battle in that first half an hour yesterday, because Adam Wharton gets booked early on. Actually, I thought fair play to the referee, because I think it's easy to not give those yellow cards early on, but it was a clear yellow, the first one. He then puts in a second challenge, which he's fairly lucky that he just about times right, 50-50. I can't remember which Fulham player it was, went to lift it over his challenge and doesn't lift it high enough. If he doesn't do that, Wharton's off. And then again, a little petulant decision of just getting swept up in the moment. And I think this is where, that's where Fulham were trying to capitalise on this. We had Palace on the ropes, and it would have changed the game. It would have also been soft, but it's an idiotic thing to do, like a little flick of the foot like that. We've seen David Beckham get sent off at World Cups for stuff like that. So I don't know why the referee's not done it. I think one thing you'd probably say is Rodrigo Muniz has, one, overreacted, but also, bless him, reacted too late. I don't think he helps himself by taking 2 steps and then going down, because he's a bit surprised by the fact that Wharton kicks him. It's almost like he couldn't quite believe it. He's like, oh, he's kicked me. This is brilliant. And he just reacts a bit too late. But that is a second yellow. It's not a straight red. It's a second yellow, which is why VAR didn't intervene. But it stiffs us a bit, doesn't it?
I mean, look, I'm not here to rewrite the rules of football here, but I do find the fact that second yellows don't get reviewed being a bit of that is a game changing thing. And I appreciate we cannot bring in VAR for yellow cards, but like, I still think there's something a bit weird that, like, that's a game changing moment. Like, and I don't care that it's just a yellow card. It's the second yellow card. So therefore I feel like at that moment, and anyway, whatever. I'm trying to like bring out some positives. I think, Liz, that there was a moment at 2-0 early on in the second half where I thought Fulham needed something to go in. Willian had a good shot that was well saved from Dean Henderson. I think from when I was in the Hammersmith end, I thought it was closer to going in. Then I watched the replay and maybe in hindsight, I thought, I don't think Dean Henderson was ever going to get seriously beaten by that. The one was Calvin Bassey on the floor. That was the one that I was just expecting the net to bulge. And in fairness to Ismaila Sarr, it's a ridiculously good block. I think that was the moment, because I think if Fulham get this back to 2-1, momentum, 20 minutes left, we were the only team really attacking in that second half. I think that was potentially it, but as we've already kind of outlined, like our goose was cooked way before.
Yeah, I mean, it was always possible that we came back, and I agree with you. That was the moment. The Bassey on the floor right in front of the goal. I can't even imagine what it would be like to be watching that from the Putney end. Like, it was right in front of us, and I just couldn't bear it. Not being able to properly see it, I don't know how it would have felt. And then obviously the substitutions were like kind of, well, I'm sure we'll come onto them, quite an interesting.
Let's come on to them now.
Selection of substitutions. There were so many rolls of the dice. I didn't mind Adama coming on, but I didn't think he was effective. I just thought we needed to change something, and he's our most successful change option, in theory. Ryan Sessegnon coming on for Anthony Robinson at left back was stupid, and I didn't like it. And I love Ryan Sessegnon, but he needs to come in an attacking sense. I don't know why he took Robinson off. And then bringing on, I really didn't like the decision to start Muniz over Raul. And then bringing on two strikers has never worked for Fulham, ever, under Marco Silva. And lo and behold, in our most important game ever, it didn't work again. So I felt like the substitutions, when they came, I wasn't like individually necessarily annoyed with all of them, but as an attempt to change up the game, it was just not successful.
I wanted to come on to this, Dan. And I think this may be for me, how Marco started the game. I was okay with Muniz over Raul. I think it was a difficult one, and I was kind of also thinking long game, right? If you need Raul is a guaranteed penalty, and I really thought that yesterday had the real potential to go to penalties. So I kind of was a bit like, I don't mind it. They've interchanged all season, and Pereira for Smith Rowe, I think, given this performances recently, was the right call as well. I think for me though, if you're looking at this, like, Fulham at this season have been able to do late turnarounds on several occasions. Fulham needed 2 goals, not 3. We needed 2 goals to save that match, because extra time at any point would have been absolutely perfect. Against Brentford, we were 1-0 down in the 90th minute and we still got 2 goals. Against Chelsea, we were 1-0 down in the 80th minute. We still got 2 goals. Fulham have got 2 goals in us. In all of those games, I know that we were playing a different system against Chelsea, but in all of those games, Fulham didn't make drastic changes. We just made changes. I just thought in that moment it was kamikaze tactics that I don't think needed it yet. Bring on the cavalry, more for it. Change it up, bring on Smith Rowe, bring on Adama, put Raul on for Rodrigo, put Sessegnon on the left wing, try it all. I just think in that moment there, Marco made a bizarre in-game moment and maybe lost a little bit of perspective of what was needed. 2 goals were needed. All we needed really was just 1 goal to get back into it. And it was kind of working. Like, Fulham were creating chances with the old at 4 at the back and everything as it was. And I just think this, for me, I was like, come on, Marco, you didn't need to be so dramatic. As Liz said, I was desperate for Sessegnon to come on, but not for Anthony Robinson.
With pretty much every substitution that happened, I saw the players coming on and I thought, okay, yeah, I see it. And then I saw the board go up and the player that they were replacing, and I just was exasperated. I hated it. And I turned to the guy next to me and I said, I hate this. This is bad. And he was like, oh, we've got to throw the kitchen sink. I was like, I don't think we do. Like, there are ways of throwing it, and like I actually think where we ceded control of the game completely, and from then on, I just thought we looked shite. Frankly, was you bring on Adama Traore and you take off Sasha Lukic. And I understand vaguely what he's trying to do. He's trying to shoehorn all of his attacking players into one team. But we then had a midfield three of Sander Berg doing everything, and Alex Iwobi and Emil Smith-Rowe, who I don't think have ever played as part of a midfield duo together, just making it up, just totally freewheeling it. And that's not what we needed then. I think still in that moment, you need Lukic and Sander Berger patrolling, sitting, helping out, distributing, and you can still get attacking players further forward. You know, Sasha Lukic is able to sort of steal into the box, make those runs, pop up on the edge of the area. I think that moment, that first double substitution, I was like, I don't like this already. And then, Raul Jimenez playing as sort of, a new position for me, sort of like a half left winger, half centre forward. Like he exclusively played in that half space for the whole time he was on the pitch, and then realised that was stupid and started just running about everywhere he could. I don't know why he did it. And I think you're absolutely right. I had a little realisation at half time because when you're 2-0 down, you're looking like, we need to score 3 goals now. And then I was like, no, it's the cup. 2 is enough. It's effectively like being 1 down. You need to score 2 goals, and you can take it to extra time. And I think if you take it to extra time, having been 2-0 down, bring it back to 2-2, you probably go on and win it. Momentum just shifts way in your favour. But we played that game like we were 3-0 down, needing to score 4, or 1-0 down with 3 minutes left on the clock. And it was neither of those. It was not as drastic as either of those. And it was inevitable that Palace were going to score a third because we were so exposed.
Yeah. We'll take a break there. Afterwards, we'll get into some of your questions and maybe at the end, look ahead to Arsenal. Part 2 of the Fulhamish podcast. It's Sammy here with Liz, Fred, and Dan. Let's go into some of your questions. Dan, these are from X. Is that okay? I know that you've deleted it and you don't want anything from X anymore, but are you okay with me taking questions from X? Yeah,
as long as it's not Palace fans putting an eagle after every single thing they tweet. The number of eagle emojis I saw on Twitter yesterday, I just, for God's sake.
Before we come on to that, it was weirdly needly, all of this.
Yeah, bizarre.
Go on, Liz.
I do feel like the Joachim Andersen thing has created a bit of beef, but B, the like London's original football club has created beef. I'm a historian and I know what the oldest club is. So I don't need to be convinced either way. I know. But I also think Palace don't, oh God, I'm going to say something so controversial. Yeah, they don't have a rival.
Whoa,
and I know they have a rivalry with,
so they just like to poke everyone.
You share a motorway.
True.
Yeah. And there was also quite a lot of like quite funny needle on social media between various Fulham fan accounts and various Palace fan accounts, which I for one love to see. I think it's all harmless fun.
I was actually going to go completely the opposite direction to that. I was just going to say that I think we've got like 4 or 5 fans on Twitter they see their entire job as like, how much can I rattle an opposition fan base? And inevitably, Palace have about 5 people on their side who do the same thing. And those 5 people has generated so much hatred between another 30,000 people on either side. It's just really started to ramp up to the point where like one fake Fulham website article about balloons being banned resulted in Fulham being called tin pot by every single football pundit in the world. It was silly. It was really silly. And whatever happened, look, I will front up. If Fulham had won yesterday, I would still firmly have X on my phone and I would be gleefully scrolling through it. So all power to Palace fans, but I wasn't man enough to take it.
No, it's just because I did my tweet after the game. I genuinely don't think I said anything about Palace, and purposely so because I just couldn't be bothered. I didn't really want to. I had so much like, hold that L, mate. Great.
Sorry,
this is my favourite tweet ever.
This is your issue. No need to tweet, man.
I just was like, I didn't open. I get it. Social media only Brentford. I feel like I fully expect it from them. but but I was just there like, what? I didn't even mention you guys. Jeez. Anyway, I'm glad it's over. I'm glad we're not facing them for like 6 months or something. And it's really odd though, because I've always just thought there's absolutely nothing, like there is no right. I mean, there still is no rivalry. Like it's just been the weirdest couple of weeks of I guess it's like Fulham and Palace are very, very similar, but very, very different in their approaches in terms of like stature of club, right? Almost identical. I don't think there's a close one. So what are you saying, Fred?
We're a bigger club, Sammy.
Oh, bloody hell.
Undoubtedly. We're a bigger
we
club.
I kind of agree with you in terms of history.
We've got more history.
And we've got a proper rivalry.
Last time they got to Wembley, they didn't sell it out. So we sold out the playoff final. I think we are a bigger club. And if they're listening to this, and I'm sorry, that needs to. If they're listening to this, fair play, because that is some serious hate watch. But like, I think you need to get out more if you're a Palace fan and listening to the podcast. I get it with the quick takes, and I get it with that because it's kind of YouTube. But to listen to this pod would be some.
This is number one head loss on the Fulhamish podcast. I clip that whole thing up.
Yeah, trust me, I'm all for it.
Get out more is just the best.
That has cheered me up.
Oh, there we go. Someone just needs to put in the after effects of Freddie's head actually just like his brain's just like hitting the wall. Absolutely gone. Let's get into some of these questions then. First up, Fulham fan news. What's happening with Josh King? He's not making any matchday squads now. Yeah, I mean, in terms of players that can come on the change, I must admit, Fred, I love Josh King. I'm a bit surprised, and I do think that towards the end of the season, I would like to see him go in a bit more. I'm not 100% sure that 3-0 down to Palace in the FA Cup in that kind of atmosphere was exactly the kind of place to chuck on someone as inexperienced as Josh King. But, I mean, would have probably done a better cameo than Adama Traore.
Yeah, I'd like to see him more. I think he will feature towards the end of the season. Like, didn't he started against Southampton, didn't he, in December? Yeah. So, and he was good. He held his own. I just feel like it's a bit too early, and he looks bright. But I think next season we'll properly see him more, and I think we will hold on to him. One of my favourite things about the whole Josh King is the chant "Josh King again, ole ole," and I'm thinking again, like, what's he like? I love him, but what's he done? But yeah, he will feature more next season. I do think it just wasn't the right game yesterday, and it's kind of just like pushing him like, oh, go and save us if we're bringing him on in 3-0 down. So
I do think that they, if you were to put a player of his age in most other Premier League clubs and have equivalent ability and potential, right? So you say if Josh King was to be at Southampton, but not at the same level, like slightly worse as a footballer, I think he would have got minutes at most other Premier League clubs, more minutes than he's got at Fulham this season. Because every time he comes on or plays, he has some sort of impact. And I have a bit of a gripe with Marco, and I agree yesterday. This is not about yesterday, but just in general, there have been opportunities for an exceptionally talented young footballer. One who I really do think, from what I've seen of him, could be the best we've had come out in the past 20 years. Like, I think he could be better than Cess, better than Fabio, better than Harvey Elliott. Like, he looks incredible, and I understand not bringing him in too soon. But from that Southampton game alone, I know they're crap, but he showed that he was good enough to play Premier League football in that one game. And his cameos since then off the bench or in the FA Cup have just further cemented that. And when we have been struggling in recent months with availability out wide, availability in the middle, it's a missed opportunity not giving him more minutes. And I hope that it happens at the back end of the season, because I really think next season you should be planning for him to be cemented on that bench. I don't want him going out on loan. I want him being, at the very least, second choice for the position that he's going to play in.
Andrew Towner asks, what personnel changes are needed to liven up our pedestrian approach to opposition defending deep? And do we have any funds for summer reinforcements? Dan, I'll come to you on this. There was an element yesterday which was incredibly frustrating, was sometimes our approach. And I know that it's not just as easy as get it forward. And I know that sometimes it's necessary to go backwards and sideways. But there was quite a lot of moments yesterday where I just thought, we haven't got a plan here. And I kind of agree with Andrew. I don't necessarily think it's always the tactics. I just don't 100% know if Fulham have that spark, like Crystal Palace do with Eberici Eze, to create something out of nothing. And I think sometimes that's what you need in order to break down stubborn, resilient defenses like Palace.
Yeah. I do think we've got a couple of not Eberici Eze level. They are X factor players though, in the sense of players who can go missing for periods of a game, but are also capable of popping up and doing something that digs you out and creates something special. And unfortunately for us, those two players, in my opinion, are Harry Wilson injured and Reece Nelson injured. And I think either one of those players at any given moment in a game, regardless of what's happening, are able to pick the ball up, beat a man and rifle it into the top corner. And yesterday we had none of those players. There's no one on that team. Probably Willian is probably your best bet in terms of just creating something out of nothing, but it's a big ask. And on the back to front, the sideways, knocking it around, I agree that it can get frustrating. I also think that sometimes it is necessary, as you say, Sammy, because you need to, the way we play, you need to retain control of a game of football. And we also know that we can't just lump it long, because we were losing that physical battle against Palace's three centre-backs. But what you then need is a different way of creating. You need some sort of central threat, which involves, this isn't his fault, someone like Emile Smith-Rowe or earlier in the game, Andreas Pereira, to offer central threat, to pick the ball up in dangerous positions, turn, start attacking that Palace back line and getting them running back towards their own goal. But we never do that. We don't pick up those spaces because it's all about how can you funnel it out wide. So I think that's really where, and I'd hoped that this season Emile Smith-Rowe would be able to do that. And he still might be able to going forward, and he has done at times in games. But you need someone who is able to pick it up in between a midfield and a defence and cause issues in those pockets of space, which is what Eze does. Eze's superb at that. Floats about, sometimes isn't involved in the game, but as soon as there's an opportunity, he picks up a dangerous position and he's running at, in the case yesterday, Sanderberg, Sasha Lukic, causing issues. And we don't have anyone doing that at the moment.
Liz, Sefton Monk asks, how many 4 out of 10 performances does Andersen have to put in before Diop gets his chance again? Obviously, this is particularly painful given the opposition that's Andersen. I felt like Andersen, a bit like our whole team, started well and seemed to actually contain Mateta for once, whereas he didn't in previous games. I think ultimately there was a lot of focus on Jean-Philippe Mateta, and I think it was possibly I don't think he had that much impact yesterday, partially because I think the centre-backs dealt well with him. But obviously, I think our focus on Mateta, maybe we forgot that there's also a couple of other good players in the Palace team. But anyway, but regarding that, I think that, I don't know, I didn't think Andersen was his worst performance yesterday, but I do agree that I'm starting to wonder who we've signed here. And when you look at what has happened, it's starting to look more and more like a bit of a stinky transfer.
Yeah, I spoke to one of the lads from a Palace podcast last week, and they said that Andersen is like a bit of business for Palace. Letting him go for that much was a great bit of business. And you don't often hear outgoing transfers described that way. So it's pretty damning. And I'm slightly losing patience with Andersen, if I'm honest. I just think I don't know what's happened, but I don't trust him in the back line properly anymore, which is a sad thing to say about one of our centre-backs. But Diop, even though Diop has a mistake in him and gives away penalties quite a lot and all that kind of thing, or at least last season Diop was chief giver away of penalties.
I think
in
he is
the Premier
actually.
League, I think.
He has given away more penalties than anyone in Fulham's Premier League history, I believe, is the stat.
Congratulations to him for that, obviously. But I just feel
They'll
like when
mention
we've
that in
seen
his
him
Forever Fulham award.
in the last few months, he's been really good, excellent. And I don't know why we're not playing him alongside Bassey. And when we've seen him alongside Bassey, they've both been really excellent, and they've elevated each other's performances. And if I'm honest, like I really tried to avoid like total head loss yesterday. But when the Palace fans were singing "Joachim, Joachim, what's the score?" I thought I was going to die dead in the Havertz end. I hated it.
One thing, and it doesn't. I don't want to shift blame, but I still think that Joachim Andersen was, when he first landed back here and was playing for us, those first few weeks were great. We were buzzing. We thought, yeah, we've paid a lot of money, but we are achieving what we needed to achieve, which is having a centre back that we can trust. That is no longer the case. He's not playing to the same level. But one thing that he's not been able to do for the past 5 months is play next to Kenny Tete. And I really don't think Timothy Castagna as a right back helps when you've got Andersen, who, coming back from injury, also not quick. We know Yoa's not quick. He doesn't like to be in a one-on-one situation where he's got an attacker running at him. Kenny Tete very rarely allows that to happen. Castagna lets it happen a lot. He gets beaten a lot. He gets exposed a lot. He's had, for me, a really poor season. It's a shame because I really like him. I just think if you get Kenny Tete back, I think it transforms that defence a little bit. I think he's so important, and I just hope he is able to come back from this injury and be the player he was. And hopefully, I'd love to see him stay for another season because I know his contract's coming to an end. I just think he's actually really vital. And one of the we forget that we've got him sat there injured and nearly back, hopefully, because he's a superb right back. And Calvin Bassey is brilliant at the moment, but he has also got the comfort of having Anthony Robinson next to him. Yeah. They help each other out. They are both top level Premier League players, and Andersen can't say the same about his wide partner. And I don't think that helps him.
No. This one from Will. What should be the goal for the rest of the season now? There's definitely an element of, I think we're all pretty defeated. And, I answered the hypothetical question on the stage at the live show of like, would you rather get in Europe via the league or would you rather get to an FA Cup final? I would tell you FA Cup final every single day of the week. But that is obviously now not going to happen, Fred. And we do have to remember, and starting as soon as Tuesday, that there is a lot to fight for in the league. There is still, we're 3 points off the Champions League places, and I'm not getting that better again. But yeah, what is it from now on? Because I do fear a bit of a slide now, especially the games that we've got coming up, and not exactly what you'd want after what we went through on Saturday in terms of the teams that we're facing.
I think Marco's aim will obviously to continue to try and reach Europe. But for me personally, I've kind of washed my hands with the Europe convo. I think I just don't think we're consistent enough to get it. So my aim for the rest of the season is to have enjoyable days out like we've had like this season. And I think when I look back at this season, obviously yesterday would be a massive disappointment, but we've had such good days out. I mean, Boxing Day, beating Chelsea, like let's beat Chelsea at home now. Do you see what I mean? I feel like my favourite like occasion when watching Fulham is when we have big results and like not necessarily achieving to get to Europe. And if we get Europe, it'll be amazing. But also at the same time, I feel we're not ready for Europe at all. And if we do get Conference League or Europa League, we're going to have to seriously invest in the summer with depth. And obviously, as Dan alluded to there, Tete's out of contract. That would feel like a new signing, to be honest. If we keep him. So I think it's obviously going to be trying to get Europe, Marco's aim. But for me, I think let's just have enjoyable away days and try and beat Chelsea. And I'm not really holding out much hope for Europe. Sorry to be negative, but I think I just can't see us getting it.
I think this week makes or breaks the season. I saw Elizabeth's face then when Sammy, when you said these aren't the games that you want. And if I'm right, Elizabeth, I think the way you're looking at it is actually after a tough game like that, do you want to go into a game where you're not favourite? The pressure's off a little bit, shackles are off, and it is also against teams that actually we've played fairly well against in recent times. And Arsenal away is so tough. We've done okay there recently, but it's not easy. Liverpool at home, obviously not easy. But these games are this run of 4 games: Arsenal, Liverpool, Bournemouth, Chelsea. There's your season. What we do here now over these next 4 games defines it, and you can start to argue with yourself, and you can start to get quite excited again because you're like, oh well, Arsenal, haven't been great recently. Liverpool, off the back of a couple of really bad results, knocking them out of 2 competitions, got Everton midweek as well, which matters to them massively. Can we capitalise on that? We've played well against them at Craven Cottage in the past. Bournemouth, we've got decent record against. Chelsea, we've already beaten this season. It's hard not to get excited again. And will we do it? I don't know, but I don't think it's all doom and gloom yet. And there are still, as Fred says, there are still opportunities to go out and have fun this season, which is the probably the most important thing. But I think there's still gaps there where if Fulham get things right, get a bit of luck here and there, if you're still in the conversation, if you're still within touching distance of Europe, come to that last run of 3 games: Everton at home, Brentford away, City at home. You need 6 points from those 3 games. Fulham could do that.
And not to be sour grapes here, but we need City to win the FA Cup.
Yeah.
If we want, and I'm not just because I'm a bit like
Forest.
No,
All
not
Forest.
All Forest, yes, because they're
they'd
pretty
never
much
shut
guaranteed,
about it, would they?
No, I'm talking about purely. I'm talking purely on a qualifying for Europe basis. Forest, and pragmatically that also works for Fulham. But yeah, agreed. City
Villa,
and a
maybe?
surefire thing.
I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah, I feel like in my heart, I can't have another team having the story we could have had this season. But I'm feeling pretty positive about the upcoming games. Arsenal away is always a good day out. I like that it's a midweek under the lights, although it will be almost light at kickoff. That'll be nice. Anyway, the days are getting
Under the
longer.
twilight.
There's so much excellent. There's so much to look forward to. But I agree with Fred about these moments. We've got Brentford away and we've got Chelsea at home to come, and I'm looking forward hugely to both those games. And I like the tweet that you read out earlier, Sammy, that made me cry about the 70-year-old who said this was our season. I never thought maybe this is my last chance to see us win a major trophy, etc., etc. Like, when you think about it like that, it is very upsetting. But we've been in the Premier League stable for 3 years now, and long may it continue. But in those 3 years, we've had 3 cup runs that have got us touching distance of Wembley. There is no reason next year why we can't do that again. And within that, we've had so many good moments. Obviously, the FA Cup run in 2023, not much to write home about, considering we knocked out like Hull, Sunderland, and Leeds. But the Carabao Cup run last season, knocking out Spurs and Everton on penalties, those were magical moments. And then this season, obviously, knocking out Man United on penalties. I've never felt a high like it. And we were in the pub yesterday debating about whether yesterday's result meant it was worthless and not meant anything. But I still really felt that day. I'll still remember that day. And when we look back at the end of the season, that moment is still going to be the special one that we reflect on. So while I am disappointed, I am like really upset and bereft today, I'm excited about the opportunity to take big scalps in the next few games. And I'm excited for next season and what we could do in the Cups next season, because it is coming for us. The final is coming for us. I really, really feel it.
I was speaking to my friend Jono on the way away from the game yesterday, and I think he said a very similar thing to you, Elizabeth, which I framed it really nicely. You look at teams who have been chasing something, right? City chasing the Champions League, as an example. Liverpool chasing the Premier League a few seasons ago. They're like their first one in a long time. It took a lot of bites. it took a lot of learnings. You get to a quarterfinal when you stuff it. You get to a semi-final when you stuff it. You get to a final when you stuff it. And eventually, as long as you keep putting together the right processes, keep going, keep learning.
Newcastle.
Like they've spent ages battling down this, and they screwed up a league title decades ago, and these are things like they don't just happen. Very rarely, unlike unless you're looking like a Leicester or a Wigan when they won the FA Cup, does it happen on your first bite at it? Oh, we've won it. That was easy. Like in general, you got to work for these things. You got to learn from it, and so if we get into the same position again next season, we've got all of these horrible experiences to build back up off and to take some pointers from them and try and do things differently.
Yeah. And look, I think I was thinking as well, if there is one silver lining out of yesterday, does that give Marco the fuel to go again? He wins the FA Cup, he's gone. Not just because Spurs come calling, but I think he thinks that's it. That's job done. And I wonder if yesterday will really hurt him. And I mean, hopefully it doesn't go the other way where he just goes, "Oh, I give up."
Screw this club.
Yeah,
losers. Bottle jobs.
But I'm hoping that there might be some motivation that actually I got it wrong yesterday, and there's I need to do it again. So hopefully that comes on Tuesday away at Arsenal. Dan, what was your favourite 3-word review from Instagram? What would you like to go for?
I think I'm going to give it to Julie. We'll go with white flags surrender.
All right. Very, very nice. Okay. So the pod will be back on Thursday. Myself and Jack looking back at everything that happens at the Emirates. And yeah, not the greatest weekend for Fulham by a long chalk, but I've really enjoyed the pod today. It's been great to vent, I think, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to it as well. Maybe enjoy is the wrong word, but hopefully you feel better for it. Is maybe the more apt phrase. Liz, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Sammy. And if you're a Palace fan listening, I'm sorry I said you had no rivalries. I lost my head just a little bit.
Not as badly though as Fred Cooper. Thank you.
Thank you, Sammy. I'm a bit worried now. But anyway, thanks for having me on the team.
You'll be
better. No, I'm joking. It's all good.
And Dan Cook, thank you.
Thank you, Sammy.
All right. Have a good start to your week. At least the sun's shining. Come on, you whites.
You whites.
You whites.